Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Osoyoos Committee of the Whole meeting, April the 8th, 2025 at 9 a.m. in council chambers. And before we ask for the approval of the agenda, and are there any late items? No? Okay, so could we have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? Good, Councillor King, Councillor Poderica, all in favor. Thank you. And the adoption of the minutes of March 25th. We have that. Thank you, Councillor Bennett, Councillor Poderica, all in favor. Thank you. And before we start the meeting, I would just like to introduce our new operations manager, and that's Tyler Madsen. Tyler, welcome to Osoyoos. We're happy to see you. And he's smiling still, so that's a good thing. Would you like to introduce yourself and say anything? You have to press the right-hand one. And it turned, there you go.
Oh, perfect.
Good.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just came here with my three boys and we're all excited to and partner and excited to join the Osoyoos team and get started.
Well, believe me, we're very excited as well. So thank you for coming. And we hope that the boys enjoy because they're all three of them are in school, so that's a good thing. And this is Councillor Appleby. Tyler Madsen, he's our operations manager. Another water counselor. So they're here because water's on the agenda. All right, first off, we will go to the water conservation and watering restrictions. So who is giving this report?
Well, as you indicated,
It says
Mayor,
Mrs.
you were happy to
Coulson.
see Mr. Madsen, not as happy as myself and Morgan and the rest of the team. So
I know.
yeah, as council's aware, we've been kind of patching that area. Marg's been filling in. He did a lot of this work and now I'm presenting. So it's been a team effort all the way.
Good.
So yeah, so thank you. So as council's aware, the weather's changing. It's getting brighter out there. The grass is turning green and people are going to start watering their lawns, and we're going to hit the tourist season. So water is going to become, again, first and foremost. It has been our number one issue for a while, but during the summer months, it really rises to the top. So we just wanted to present to you, I guess, just some background material, basically a refresh of what's been happening within the community, and also to inform our residents, because water is a critical issue within the community, and maybe just look for some feedback on some ways of assisting really the whole community in saving water. So really the issue is, as council's aware, and many of the members of the public are aware, our water levels get extremely low, especially during irrigation periods and the evenings of our watering days. And one of the couple of things we really want to bring to the table here today is just raising the awareness of the risks associated with the critically low water supply and exploring possible strategies. And I think I just want to compliment a lot of the community members. They've, I know even on my street, 3 people have gone to Zeroscape, and we do know a lot more people are complying with the water restrictions. So kudos to the community, because that has enabled us to continue to have water every single day. But there still are some issues. We know still we see the odd person watering during the day. We know there's people watering on non-watering days when we have water restrictions on, and I can understand it. You drive up the valley, what do you see? You see a lot of water. You look at the orchards, the water is running. I don't think what some of these people don't understand, though, is that the water that comes out of your tap is different. It's their potable water system, and that is what is most critical, and that's the topic for today. So within our potable water system, or domestic water system, the water that comes out of your tap, how the system works is that there's 6 wells that produce water, and put them up to reservoirs. So typically what happens is the wells are running, they fill up the reservoirs to account for fluctuations in water pressure. When we have our watering days or irrigation days, we basically have half the community taking water to irrigate their lawns. And so imagine all these straws and people are drinking out of a glass, and you've got the water coming into glass. That's the wells pumping water into the reservoirs. But if you have too many straws or too many people drinking water, what happens? The water coming into the glass can't keep up with the people drinking the water. And that's exactly what's happening with the reservoirs. They're dipping down to basically 40%. With all of our wells running, we still cannot keep up with the demand out there. And again, this is during our peak watering hours, so we know it's the irrigation piece in the middle of the night. And I think it's important to note, again, I know council is aware of this, that again, we have 6 wells, they're running full bore, and we can't keep up. You should never have one well on. One well should always be sitting idle. Even in your worst days, one well should be sitting idle in case you have a mechanical failure. There's a lot of parts in these wells, and if something goes wrong, we're down to 5, maybe even 4 wells. That is not sufficient to provide enough water for the community, and we would go on to complete water restriction. So we've been lucky. For years, we've been lucky, and nothing has happened during those peak periods. Our staff do a great job of maintaining that equipment, but unfortunately, sometimes things do happen. So I just really want to emphasize that, like, we're already on a lifeline that we shouldn't be using, and so it really is critical from a well perspective. So if the reservoir levels become too low, a few things can happen. First is if it hits that 35% level, there is not an adequate water to put out fires. And on most nights when we have irrigation, we're down to that 40% level. So we are critically close to that, absolutely not having enough water. If the reservoirs become too low, additional problems can happen. Obviously, just not enough water for drinking, that type of thing. But what could also happen is it could disrupt some of the sediment that's in the lines or in the reservoirs, which could potentially lead to boiling water orders from Interior Health, something that would be out of our control. Obviously, Interior Health is looking after the community and making sure that the water is safe to drink. And so that's something that could happen. And if it did, it would take several days to actually clean that out of our system. It wouldn't be like what happens now, where we can kind of isolate some of our brown water incidents, where we have had to go to some limited water, potentially even a boiling water issue in certain areas. But we're kind of fortunate because we can adjust the water valve so that it stays in one area. Unfortunately, if something like this would happen, it would likely contaminate our entire system, which would take a tremendous amount of time to get that out of the system. So we're talking potentially weeks that we could be on a boil water order. I don't mean to, alarm people, that type of thing, but that is a really likely scenario that could occur. So again, I think a lot of messaging has gone out, and again, a lot of people have changed their habits with regards to using water, and a lot of people are going to Zeroscape, which is very appreciated. Again, it keeps everybody else the ability to have water. I know we can do more from providing water conservation tips and resources. We have them on our webpage, but we could also do more. Some places have even gone as far as providing incentives for water efficient landscaping. So these are all things that are potential things that we could potentially do, and no decisions have to be made on this, but it's something that council may want to give direction after this meeting, or maybe even in the future, things that we can do to reduce the water consumption by everyone in the community. I think it's important to note that we have made a lot of inroads with the water meters. I think things are going to get a lot better. We've seen evidence, it's been repeated several times, that water meters that have an impact on conservation by at least 10%, sometimes even up to 30%. I think our big issue right now is the upcoming year, because we have one more year where um, water meters are being installed, but it will take us some time to actually start monitoring and having the system up and running, where that would give administration an opportunity to go potentially target individual properties and see what's actually transpiring. Are there things that we can do to reduce that water consumption? But right now, again, we're making a lot of decisions and providing a lot of information with really little facts other than our water reservoir levels. So again, in next year, we'd be in a lot better position to say, this is what we can target. This is what we can do, because we know where our water issues are. So some of the things that potentially we can consider is, and again, some of these options we don't even really like, but because our situation is so dire, we're just throwing out some ideas, and that's to limit continuous water duration. And what we mean by that is, we know there's some people that irrigate far too much. Instead of doing their maybe 15 minutes per sprinkler head type thing, they're keeping it going a lot longer. And so trying to do more to limit the amount of water that people are using on water days. Again, that would be extremely difficult to monitor. With water meters, we'd have a lot more ability to do that. And again, we're hoping that even this summer, we can actually start utilizing that information from our water meters. As council is aware, we went to the AMI system, which actually gives us water consumption or usage on every single property within every few seconds. So if there's water being used at 2 o'clock in large quantities, we would know that. So we have the ability to do this, but it would still be a lot of work. But again, we're in a pretty critical stage with our wells. So that's something that could be out there. Something else that council may want to consider is to discontinue the exemptions. I know there were a few properties last year that came forward asking for exemptions to the watering restrictions. Some of the reasons for that were just how their irrigation system was set up. They just couldn't get their entire yards watered in the time allotment, and so exemptions were made. I also know, though, that council made it fairly clear that this was a one-year exemption. But I have a feeling coming into this upcoming year, we may get more requests, and council will have to consider whether or not they want to allow that. I think one of the big things is it's critical to have that education process, that we do need to conserve water, and whenever we're giving additional water to someone, it actually jeopardizes the use of water for the entire community. So it is nice to give that one area additional water, but it jeopardizes water for everyone else. One option that would, well, in theory and mathematically, does reduce that risk factor on our reservoir levels. As council is aware, we go to 2 days a week most of the summer, and those are the days that our reservoirs are in the worst shape, obviously, because that's when all the water is being used. And so in essence, we have half the community irrigating their lawns 4 days a week. If we were to change the zones and make it so that there's basically 3 zones, what that in effect would do is only have 1/3 of the community going on the watering days. So our current system, we have 4 days where 50% of the homes are watering. In a system like this, it would actually be 30% of the homes using water 6 days a week. So what something like this would do would actually reduce those really high peak periods where at the highest risk. So I know change is tough. People have irrigation systems, and programming those things isn't sometimes the easiest to do. But we do know, especially over the next year, we have meters, we'll have better information, we can make better informed decisions. Again, even this year, hopefully the AMI water meter system is running, and we can pinpoint various areas that maybe are utilizing too much water. But again, we don't have that information, nothing's proven, and we're getting close to our busy irrigation system. And again, as I've repeated several times, our reservoir levels are very close to that critical level. So we're throwing out a potential option that would reduce that risk, at least in theory. Again, if people follow the water restrictions, we should have more water in our reservoirs during those peak periods. So that, in essence, is a presentation. We're just wanting to start that awareness out there. There's probably still time for people to switch from a irrigation system to a zero-scape system within their yards, and to maybe, instead of buying certain plants this spring, buy ones that are drought resistant. So we have some options out there. We're looking for feedback. I think we're all in this as a community together. And the only way this is going to work is with community involvement and advice to try to reduce our overall water consumption.
Thank you, Mr. Risling. You and Mrs. Colson have done a great job of presenting this and giving a lot of the options. I certainly think that we need to continue with education. That's a key piece, and I think people are realizing that and thinking about it and paying attention to that. So that's a good thing. We need to keep that up. The incentives for water efficient landscaping, can I just say from Okanagan Basin Water Board that we have a Make Water Work program, and it's worked really well over the years. There's an incentive for the community that is most efficient to get an award. We've been second many times, but we haven't won that yet. And also, I just want to say that some of the nurseries around here they've been contacted by Okanagan Basin Water Board, and they do carry lots of plants that are more suitable and use less water than other places. So that's a good thing. Check with the nurseries, and further restrictions on watering. I think we need to absolutely look at that part. And the idea of 3 zones is, I don't think it's been brought up before, but it could work. We normally have 3 days a week. That's our absolute normal. We don't go to every day a week. We haven't done that for years. And we've had to turn it, to lessen it to 2 days a week, which happened last year. We didn't have to go to 1 day a week, although that is an option if absolutely necessary or none. I think that the zones is worth considering, and certainly all of these are really good suggestions. So thank you very much. Now I'll see if anybody, water counselors or council, do any of you have any questions or concerns? Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wondering, in this proposed, these zone options, does that include the twinned 8-9 system, or would that just be within the town boundary?
Through Your Worship, no, it would be applicable to anybody using the potable water.
So 8 and 9 as well.
That's correct.
Yep, no, that's perfect. Yeah, I like the idea of the zone system. I'm just wondering, on the timing side of things, it's we've made a lot of changes in water over the last couple of years, and maybe something to consider when we roll to that next step, which I assume is when we start going to fully metered water, and the rates and changes that apply at that point might be a great time for us to save a bit of the hassle on the communication side of things, so that everything kind of rolls out at once as one seamless program. But
through Your Worship, to Councilor Poderica, I completely understand the amount of information that's come out of Town Hall the last few months has been probably overwhelming for some, and we've got more issues coming up, or more requests of our citizens through our residential cart pickup is another issue that's coming. So I think this is one of the last things that we really wanted to do. I think once the water metering comes into play, and a water metering rate structure can be put into play that actually benefits those that are water conservationists versus those that are heavy water users, I think we'll see a change in behavior. I think our concern right now is getting through this year. And I guess my biggest concern is if we don't bring it up and don't talk about it, if we run out of water or the reservoirs dip to a little bit more and we have to go on a boil water order for potentially weeks, I just thought we needed to sound the alarm. I really think that, as you've indicated, within like next year, we'll be in a different situation. So it's almost that 1 year fix. And I totally get people are tired of information, but it would be a lot worse if we had to go on a boil water for several weeks. So I can totally appreciate it as a tough call on, what we do this summer.
And thank you, Your Worship. I guess the other option, given the timing and being that we have not moved to that quarterly billing program for our utilities, is maybe that end of next billing cycle might be a great time as we head into summer. I don't know if we'll hit the mark for June, but maybe, if we were to look at this something, effective July 1st type scenario, that might position us a bit better in terms of that communication stream and that rollout at the same time. Not sure if we'd have enough time to get into July 1st, or you'd be looking for something sooner, but.
Your Worship, just for clarity, to actually implement a 3-zone system and put it in the water bills for like the May mail out, or
Communication of that, if that was where we were to go to.
absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why we're bringing it here today, is that if we are going to potentially move to that would be a great opportunity. Definitely prefer to put that information within the utility billing rather than the tax notice, because it is more related to water. But 100% agree. If we're going to do it, I think the earlier it's done, the better, to start communicating to people. And I will say one more piece. It does cause other problems. This isn't a great fix. And why I'm saying that is right now it's 3 days a week. If we were to move to this 3-zone system, do we move to 3 zones right away? Like as soon as we pass the bylaw, go to that? Or do we make it more complex in that, no, you can still do 3 days a week, but that's going to be odds and evens for these days. And then when we go to the 3 zones, now it's 2 days and everybody's days are going to be changed. So there's another piece there, again, on the communication side, which is so tough. But again, it's just because of the situation we're in.
Thank you. And every time it rains, I smile. We love the rain. We're supposed to be in, is it El Nino? El Nino, I forgot which is which, but I think we're supposed to get a little bit more rain this year, and that is just fine with us. So I'm going to go to Councillor Appleby.
Good morning. The 3-zone system, I think, has merit. I'm just wondering, because the way it's divided up on the map is easily to understand. What is the population synopsis with that? Is one zone a heavier user right now than the others, or what?
Through your worship,
don't have any material on that.
You're
So just
100% correct.
guessing.
We are just guessing. That's our problem right now, as I think I indicated in the presentation. We don't have good information to provide council. We only have a couple pieces of information. We know that our wells are running full blast and that our reservoirs are depleting. So the line was trying to hit some main roads to try to make it clearer, easier to communicate. But is it exactly even? Absolutely not. And we couldn't even actually calculate it now because we don't have that information available. So yeah, that's our Councilor Appleby. That is our problem. We don't have good information to provide you to make good decisions.
Anybody else have any questions or concerns? So what you're looking for is a kind of a thought from council about whether we should be moving ahead with this at this point, Mr. Risling?
Yes, your worship, it is
Okay.
about mitigating risk and how much risk, I guess, council wants to take on.
Mhm.
We could make it through this year, and I'm fairly certain once we have the water meter program in place next year, we're probably gonna be okay. If not, again, we have better data to provide council to make a more informed decision. This is just potentially a mitigation factor, really, I think, to get through this year. And so it's, as I've indicated at the beginning of our presentation, and we've been in a red zone for years, right? So, waiting one more year, is that okay? It could be. We could have a well failure, we could have all
Mm.
these things, but I just wanted to bring it to the community
Mhm.
so that if something bad does happen, we can say, we talked about it this date, weighed the risks, here was an option, but we ultimately decided no, or we said yes. So if
Okay.
council does want us to move in this direction, we would like some a motion stating such, so we could move forward the next meeting and start changing our bylaws and getting communication material ready, because our problem is waiting till June or July, that's too late. It takes us too long to actually implement something like that. So it's up to,
Okay, thank you. Counselor King?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I support moving forward with this initiative. I think it'll also be easier for the people that use too much water for bylaws to look at certain areas instead of the whole town at once. Will make it a lot easier also. So I think there's a couple of pluses there going forward with this.
Okay, is there anybody else would like to second that motion or?
I just would, that was one point. Thank you, Councillor King, for bringing that up. It does make it easier for a bylaw. Right now, they have to basically travel the entire community.
Mhm.
Yeah, so now it can be limited to 2/3 of the community. So thanks for bringing it up. That was a benefit that I didn't mention.
Go ahead.
I'll
Mhm.
second your motion.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we move ahead with this and certainly look at the three zones, plus continue on with everything else, with zero scaping, cutting back on your water education, that kind of thing, right? So could we take a vote on this? And my assumption is that our water counselors would also vote on this. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Okay. Next is the solid waste collection update. And that I think is, sorry. Yes, go ahead. Can you turn on? Yeah.
Are we gonna talk about the irrigation system?
I know that I've had some phone calls. I'm sure you have as well. I'm not sure. Mr. Risling, do you know anything about looking at that?
Well, it's not on the agenda, but I can give an update.
Thank you.
So we have been going through a process, I guess, to become maybe more aligned with our licenses. We've made changes to fees. We've made changes to our spray water, and a lot of those were implemented this year, which has caused some confusion and some frustration amongst our ag users. I do know that a lot of the ag users, when they came in last year, were informed of some of these things occurring, but I think a lot of people don't pay attention to it until it actually does occur. So I'm not, I, I, I don't want to diminish the concern that's out there. We do want to maybe look at it here in the next few months again to maybe provide a little bit more clarity. But yes, I think the biggest change was the spray water, which and the cost associated with it. We do know that spray water has been again permitted in the past, and the intent of that was for people to go and fill their water tanks and use it for spraying. But unfortunately, I think the vast majority were using it as an irrigation system, which was not the intent to spray water. Oliver, I believe, has the same type thing where they actually have the spray water. People can go and fill up their tank, and that's how it is. But our spray water for the most purposes was actually not used as spray water. It was used as full irrigation. So I think it's something that we need to talk about. Over the upcoming months, the water will be turned on in about a week, the 14th or the 15th. But yes, it has caused a lot of angst within our ag user group.
Did that answer? You're okay with that? Yeah, yeah, you understand it, I think. I knew that you,
Do it this year.
yeah,
I knew we weren't gonna do it this year, it's too late. Like what I tell the growers. The earliest could be done would be in next year's budget. That's the way I looked at it. By the time we got everything going,
yeah.
it'll be the 15th anyway.
I have talked to a couple of people and I suggested that if they had a concern, and I suggested that they talk to both of you, and they said they have. And I said, if you think that there is a better way of handling this, please make a put together a report and ask to be on the agenda, and you can explain it. I think that it's kind of complicated and it's not the way they're usually done it. So I don't know whether any of them have said that to you or not, but I suggested that if they wanted to, that they should come and make a presentation to council if that's, yeah, okay. Councillor Appleby, you had
Thank
your,
you.
yeah.
Yes, I got a few phone calls. Did we change the fee drastically?
The fee was changed. I think it was. The fee was changed. I think it's more of the practice. I think what happened before is a lot of.
I'm hearing from these people that the fee has gone up considerably.
It has.
And I don't know whether it went from $100 to $400 or what, but
So it did. So before, a lot of times we turned it on for free. Probably shouldn't have. I think it was even a fee within our bylaw, but it was done. Somebody would ask and we went out. So like a lot of other things we've been doing in the community, we haven't really been following some of our bylaws, and we're trying to move to a more formalized process. If council decides not to charge fees, then that's their decision. But right now there were fees in the bylaw that we weren't implementing, and there were increases to the fees last year, because we increased everything equally along the way. But a lot of times, again, those fees that were even there before, unfortunately, weren't even charged. So it's almost like a
yeah, okay.
0 to X, but there was a fee and it did increase, but again, it's almost a 0 to this fee.
Can we justify the new fee? In other words, what if our costs have gone up 400%?
Through your worship, I think the ag system is still in a deficit from the overall operating capital requirements. So as far as justifying the fee, I think there's, it's still not even close, right? We're not collecting the amount of funding required from the ag system to actually support it. So, yes.
Okay, so theoretically, we should be changing the ag systems fee structure at the base level and charging for the extras at a as needed rate. Is that what I'm hearing?
Through your worship, I think I'd say yes to that question. One of the things that was passed in this year's budget was it's a kind of an asset management financial strategy on the ag system. So once that review is completed, which will take about a year, we'll have a good understanding of what those assets are and the condition of them, and in a financial model to actually say this is how we can sustain that system. So a lot of work needs to go into collecting this information so that we can provide it to council so that you can make some sound decisions. But without question, you're right. I think there has to be a lot of tweaks along the way. Maybe the turn on or turn off might go down, but the first 1,000 gallons are X and additional gallons are Y. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to actually look at that system and the billing system to be clear to people and to also make it financial.
There's no meters at the farm
That's right.
gate.
Yep.
On the egg system,
That's correct.
just a restrictor valve.
Correct.
So how are you gonna sit there and say charge so much for the first 1,000?
So what I was only using that for an example. It is something that you could do. I'm not saying it's at all something that you should make a decision on. What I'm saying is that there is money in this year's budget to do a review of all the assets. Once we know the condition and the cost to replace these assets, then we can look at the funding model to pay for those assets, and whatever council decides, because there'll be various options, is something you can consider. Now, I mean, just from a practical use, I get the water meters may not even be useful. I mean, one of the things is you have the fruit farmers, which need a lot more water versus the vineyards, which are a drip system. Well, do you change it to the heavier users using the water? They pay more or not? So I think those are decisions that are critically important for the water counselors to wrap their heads around and see what is the best thing. Do you want to promote fruit farmers versus, and so just do flat rate, don't do meters. Those are all decisions that need to come. I think there's a lot of work on this ag system that you're bringing up are critically important debate.
We have in the past in other areas given the administration the right to adjust things. Would it be beneficial to us? Because we don't know what the weather situation is going to be. And neither do you. Now, this spring, we happen to have a bit of an early spring happening and trees are blossoming out and things like that. And these guys want to do their work. If we sat there and said sometime after April 1st, the administration has the opportunity to turn the water on, would that alleviate some of our problems?
Well, I think we need to, we also have water licenses that we have to be concerned with. So I think, I think it's really important for us to actually dig into this issue a lot deeper and look at what we can and can't do, and then provide it to council. If we have the ability to be more flexible on things, absolutely. So I think all your comments are really valid, and there's things that we're gonna have to dig up and provide you with additional information so that you can provide us with the direction on how we want to go forward. So I think these are good ideas that we could potentially implement.
Thank you.
Councillor King?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just had some conversation. The fee's $207. And council did change cost recovery last year in the budget. The real question was, how did we come up with 207? Because the farmer sees a person just kind of drive in town, turn a switch and come back. 207 seems a little high to do that, but I know we did want cost recovery. So to me, that would be the one thing to look at. Maybe that should only be $100 or something, as a thought.
But there definitely is a cost to providing water. We have to look at, everything that's involved from, picking it up and treating it and that. And I think that people have assumed, or some of the farmers have assumed, that they could just get it for free. So I think it does take some looking at for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And the other part I agree with is that I sat in on a presentation up at the high school about a year ago where some vineyards, et cetera, are now using drones to fertilize and spray. So they're not using half the water that the guy that runs around with a big tank and sprays, 300 gallons of water in an hour. So everybody's somewhat unique.
Go ahead, Claude.
In that hour, they do about 10 times as much as the drone does. 300 gallons, that's close to 10 acres. So it's all controlled with the sprayer. It's computerized.
Okay, can we leave that issue for now and know that it's certainly being looked at, and and I'm sure you're going to get more questions. How long does the spray, is it a 2-week thing, or how long or does it go on until the actual irrigation turns on? How do they figure that out?
Well, it's usually on weather, like this year, we're earlier. So you're probably spraying, I'm guessing, 8 to 10 days earlier than you normally would, and that's where all this kicked in.
Okay.
Yeah, like you say, if it was a normal year, odds are maybe towards the end, somebody, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, can we move on to the solid waste collection update? Mr. Risling, are you going to introduce this?
Thank you, Your Worship. As you know, we're moving to residential cart system. Part of the reason for this was that our existing contract is expiring in about a year's time, and so there was a regional effort to band together to get the best possible price for all municipalities in the region, which is again another good thing of showing collaboration and also providing the best dollars possible for our residents. There was an update given probably about a month or so ago as far as some of the proposed changes that could occur during this transition period to the new contract, which starts July 2027, and council gave us or probably 2026, which council gave us some direction to proceed on implementing the cart system early, because there wasn't going to be a financial impact, at least in this year, for moving to that system. And we just wanted to provide a further update and actually ask council some questions with regards to what things should maybe be included in our upcoming contracts. So you've met him before. Mitch has been a great addition to our team, and he's taken on this project with our vacancies within the management core within operational services, and he's here to provide us with another update and ask council some questions on how to move forward. Thank you.
Welcome, Mitch. We'll let you take over and go through. Are you going to make the presentation here on what you've got? Because it's complicated.
I certainly will.
Thank you very
I
much.
also found your water discussion very interesting. I didn't know that you had that big of an issue with water reservoirs in your summertime, but interesting problem. Okay, I'm here to talk about something a little different though. Solid waste is what I'm going to talk to you guys about. So I got a couple things I was going to walk through with you. A little bit of background, which you've either seen in previous council reports or when I was here last time, but just to refresh your mind. And then I wanted to give you an update on rental carts, an update on resident-owned carts, the mail out that will be going out to residents about the cart program, cart inspection, and then a list of things that will be worked on. And then we get to the part where we need to find out from council specifically what they would like to do with a couple of issues related to the carts and a couple of issues related to collection. So in terms of background, with the carts, as you know, you have an automated collection process for recycle carts. You don't have that for garbage and yard waste. Garbage and yard waste is being picked up in a variety of ways. It could be a cart. It could be a container. It could be a bundle of stuff that's tied together, or it could be a paper bag. So that's all over the map. Council committed to move to carts for garbage and yard wastes in 2024. You allocated $350,000 in this year's budget to buy the carts, and you got about $45,000 on an ongoing basis for future cart operations. The Osoyoos request for proposals to purchase carts it's basically finished. We're waiting for a couple comments from Osoyoos staff on that, as well as the most important piece of information we're waiting for is information back from the mail out we're going to send to the citizens, because we need to know exactly how many carts you want to buy. So that's getting very close. And then there's some amendments to the waste regulation bylaw with respect to fees that also needs to be done. And we're heading towards an implementation of a cart program, full cart program in the fall of this year. February of 2025, council did pass a motion to extend the yard waste pickup by one additional pickup in December, and that current collection contract will be coming forward for an amendment to address that in the near future. In terms of the new collection contract, in 2023-2024, Penticton, the regional district, Summerland, Oliver, and Osoyoos issued, reviewed, and selected a successful proponent. In March of this year, Osoyoos issued a notice of intent to enter into a contract with Waste Connections Canada for future waste collection for 2026 to 2032. And that new collection contract is in draft form. It is under review by Osoyoos staff right now. And once that process is concluded, and once we get some direction today from council on a few items, that would then move over to Waste Connections Canada for their consideration, and you'd commence the negotiation process. So rental carts. As you proceed with this project, you learn a bunch of things that you didn't know when you started. And one of the things we learned was Waste Connection Canada rents a number of carts to residents in Osoyoos. There's about 473 carts out there that they currently rent to your citizens, and they're used for a variety of things. They could be using them for garbage, they could be using them for recycle, yard waste. So there was some fair bit of discussion on what do you do with these rental carts? I mean, they're a valuable resource. How can you incorporate them into your process? You don't want to see them simply gotten rid of. You want to use them if you can. So there were some discussions with Waste Connections Canada, and verbally they've indicated that they will gift those carts to Osoyoos. There is some follow-up paperwork that is in transition right now to actually put that in words, but they have right now agreed that they would do that. So those rental carts, though, before you can actually start using them, you got to inspect them, make sure that they're suitable. I don't anticipate a lot of issues with that. I've talked to the regional district inspection crews that are doing inspections in the regional district, and what they're finding is 95% of the carts are suitable for use. The ones that are suitable, you're going to have to do a couple things to them. You have to put a radio frequency identification tag on them, serial number, logos, and then you got to identify what's in them, because they don't always have a color-coded lid, which is normally what you use. So you got to identify what the material in the cart is going to be. And then the intention would be then to just leave that cart then with the resident, and they would continue to use it. We also discovered that there's a number of residents that have bought their own carts. They've gone to Canadian Tire or wherever, and they purchased their own carts. We don't know exactly how many of those are out there. That's something that we will be asking residents when we send out the mail out on the cart program. We have done some calculations based on the regional district's information, and our best estimate right now, there's about 144 of them out there, but that could be high, that could be low. We need to refine that number. So the intention there is to find out if the residents wanted to transfer ownership of the cart that they have to the town of Osoyoos. And the resident would receive a one-time offer of a purchase to buy that cart for $35. And that's for the ones that are found to be suitable. So again, you got to inspect them all. And then if the resident wants to transfer it and it's suitable, we would put all the required tags and stickers on it right when we were doing the inspection. And then that cart would then stay with that particular resident. In terms of the resident mail out, that's scheduled to go out at the end of this month. And that mail out it'll be an information piece to sort of tell your residents, this is what's going on with automated cart collection. It'll also give them an opportunity to tell the city or the town if they want to change the carts they're getting. So they can do that. Also, we're going to add a piece in there because apparently there are some people that have expressed an interest in wanting a second recycle cart. So that's going to be added into that. There's also another form if the residents own a cart that they would then fill out if they want to give that to the city or have the city buy it from them and have it considered in the transfer. So they'll have to fill that out. So that form, we're looking at getting that back by the end of May. And then there's also a set of frequently asked questions that are going to go on the website. And all of these items right now, Rod has given that to the front counter staff because they're really the people that are going to deal with this on a day-to-day basis. So they're looking at it and they're making adjustments at it based on their experience. So that's where that's at right now. Cart inspection. Once we get the information back from the residents on the resident-owned cart, and we'll then take the information we have from Waste Connections Canada on the rental carts, we know where those are, and then we'll have to then develop a program for inspection and schedule for inspection. So the town has asked the regional district if they would do the inspection for us on a fee-for-service basis, and because they're doing it right now, they've got the people, they've been trained, they know how to do it. They're considering that. They've indicated they couldn't do it right now because they're in the middle of their own inspection, but I don't think the town will be ready to do anything until about June. So they're still considering it. If they can't do it, then the town's going to have to undertake that inspection themselves. And then you would then be able to add all of those carts that are found suitable into your inventory. In advance of that inspection, there's going to have to be some purchases made. You're going to have to buy the radio frequency tags, the serial number tags, logo tags, material tags. And it's kind of interesting. If you were buying a brand new cart, you might only put one logo on it. But what they're finding is when you're using somebody else's cart, sometimes that cart has someone else's logo on both sides of the cart. So you got to put your logo over top of that so it's clear who owns the cart. So a little more cost to some of that stuff. So I put together a request for quotations on all of that, and that is currently with your staff for review right now. So we can move forward in advance of doing inspections and have the materials you need to do it. In terms of the RFP to buy the carts, we are basically waiting for the numbers. Once we have those, that will then go out through the regional district purchasing process. And they will then send that RFP out. It will be, the submissions will be reviewed and a decision will be made on award. So in terms of dates and schedules for all these things we need to do, waste management regulation bylaw will be coming back to council probably the 22nd of April. Mail out, we're looking at sending that out the end of April. May, we're looking at commencing negotiations with Waste Connections Canada on the new collection contract. Again, in May, we're looking at an amendment to the current waste collection contract to deal with that additional yard and garden waste pickup. And the end of May will be the deadline to receive the cart changeout forms and the resident cart forms. That will allow us to finalize the RFP and issue that in June. Again, we'll be purchasing the tags I mentioned and the stickers. That's a June item. By June, the regional district should be in a position to tell us if they can take on that inspection. We would then complete the inspection, and then we would be receiving carts and distributing those under the RFP in the fall and commencing an automated cart collection process in the fall of 2025. And we're also hoping to conclude the negotiations on the new collection contract at that time as well. So now we get to the items we needed to talk to council about to get some direction on. So the first one is carts, and we want to make sure that you're wanting to accept those carts from Waste Connections Canada, the gifting of the carts. So that's the first question, if you're wanting to do that. And I don't know if you want me to just stop and go through them one by one and get your answers and before I move to the next one.
Yeah, could we do that one at a time? Because my first thought was, why wouldn't we want them gifted? Is there a downside to this? And if so, could you explain what it is?
The only downside that I would see, and I don't rate it very highly is you don't know what you're accepting because you haven't seen them.
Oh,
I only know what the regional district has told me. So then what happens is let's say all the carts were not good carts. Well, you've just inherited a bunch of carts that are no good, and then you've got to do something with them, like pick them up and take them to the landfill. That's your only downside. I don't expect that is the case, but you would never know that unless you went out and inspected all 473 carts.
so is that an option to go and inspect them? I mean, I'm just thinking if they're, some people might have had them for 2 years, some might for 10. So would that make a difference? How long they had them in their possession?
Um, I would think that would be an option. I guess the only thing I would see then, if you wanted to inspect them all and then go back and tell Waste Connections Canada, yes, we want them or no, we don't.
Hmm.
Um, if you said yes, then you got to go back and revisit them all to RFID tag, and that's going to cost you twice as much money from a staff perspective. So I think it's better to make your decision in advance.
Anybody else have a thought on this? Counselor King and then Counselor Bennett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the RDOS accepted the carts from,
Yes.
and did they find a percentage were bad, or did you get any feedback, or they're quite happy with the?
Yes, I did. I did talk to the actual people that are doing the inspections, and very, very few are found to be unacceptable.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I would move that we accept the gifting of the rental cars, because ones I see, most people take them out, like this morning, they went through where I am, and most people put their cars out last night, and then they're put back in the garage the first thing this morning, as fast as the truck goes by, and people are collecting and putting away, and so I don't see where there's a lot of abuse to them.
Okay, so are we agreeable to accepting the gifting of the carts? Okay. Next one.
Okay, the next one is another cart question, and that's, do you want to make use of the resident-owned carts?
I guess my thought on that one was, are they all equipped with the lifting device that the truck needs? Because I understand that at the regional district table, this was talked about, because some have it on the side, some have it on the front. So do they have to make sure that they would be able to be picked up by the truck that will eventually be here?
The answer to that question is yes, and yes, they do have to be picked up by the truck. And we would only be accepting resident-owned carts that are suitable. So one of the things that we have like a checklist of things you look at on the cart. You're looking at size, condition. You're also looking at the suitability of the cart for automated pickup. And if you can't check all of the boxes, then there's another box that says this card is either suitable or it's not. And if it's not suitable, you don't take it and you don't pay for it. You only take the suitable ones. So, but they have to be inspected.
Okay, that's what I wondered. All right, so Counselor Poderica?
It's a question I can't remember. On carts that are currently resident owned, let's say that are of larger size, if we were to allow the use of resident owned carts, would they pay that increased fee of, let's say, if it went from 120 to 240, for example?
Well, what would happen is the resident-owned cart would become property of a Soyuz, and then all the fees would apply. So if it was, let's say, a 240 liter cart versus a 120 liter cart, and you have a different fee for the 240 versus the 120, yes, they would.
Okay, thank you.
I guess, how do we make the decision if we want to use the residential cards? It's their cards, so it sounds like we're dictating to them we want them.
The mail out is asking them if they would want to have their cart considered in the cart program. So it's up to them. If they say, I don't want to, they can't. But under the collection contract, as the new one, as it's worded, they will only collect authorized Soyuz cart. So then if the guy keeps his cart and puts it at the curb, it won't be picked up.
Just relate to the mail out on people reading this. I hope you put this in big bold letters.
And I'm sure that there are going to be people that are asking questions because, you know, as I read through this a couple of times, I was concerned as well. So we can't expect everybody to figure it out first read.
No, there's lots of balls in the air.
So we're okay with resident-owned carts if they choose. That's on their, if they choose not to, then that's a done deal. But if they choose to, we're okay?
Just go to the next line. So just to talk, if we purchased the residential carts for $35, we have to get rid of them, then we sell them a new one? Is that how it works?
No, the intention would be the resident-owned cart would stay with the resident. We would pay them $35 and we would own it, and you would just continue to use it until it was no good anymore, and then it would be replaced under your normal replacement program. That's what the $45,000 a year that you're carrying on an annual basis is to do things like that. So you would just replace it then.
Well, there wouldn't be a cost when it's being replaced, would it? Like down the road, they don't have to pay for a replacement cart, or do they?
They would have to pay for the cost of somebody going out there to get it and put it out. There is a fee established for that, that will be coming forward for council's consideration, but all the rest of the costs associated with running the cart program will be part of your solid waste fee that you charge residents.
Right. So there isn't an added part. It's part of the fee that you already pay.
So
Yeah.
if I want to make use of residential card, you're going to give me $35 and you can use my card.
Yeah, you would get $35 credit, and I think Rod is still looking into how that would happen, and it's probably going to be a credit against the bill that you pay. It doesn't make sense to give them cash or a check. So I think that's how it would be done.
Okay, so we're all right with that one? Purchase the resident-owned cart at $35 if that's what they choose. We're okay with that? All right. Next, do you want to issue the cart mail out and all accompanying forms at the end of April? Can you get them all ready by that time? That's 2 weeks? Oh, he says yes. Okay.
Like our issues, you've heard from Mr. Moroziak, that the sooner we can get it out, the sooner we can do the RFP. So that it's a real time crunch. Our problem on the administration side is that we've had so many changes over the past year. We've had the quarterly billing, which has really taxed the staff. We've got this going out. We've got short-term rentals coming up, and then we've got the quarterly billing and the property taxes. So this is really our only window, maybe even earlier, so that we can maybe change the due date a little bit sooner to try to get it done before the tax notices get out. So it's the problem is there's so many different deadlines coming up. This is really our only window right now. So, and the staff have been really looking. Mr. Moroziak did a great job in this whole thing of getting some stuff out there, but as indicated, it's important for the frontline staff to actually review, and they had some great comments and questions, and we're incorporating those because at the end of the day, that's who they're asking. So it's gonna be tight, but yes, we almost have to.
And we certainly appreciate our frontline office staff because they have to deal with everything. Everybody that has a concern comes in and expects them to know the answer. So good on them. Okay, so yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. To staff, on our report here on the first page, you talk about a wildlife resident garbage can cart. Can you explain what that is?
Your worship, what that is there are garbage cans that you cannot open the lid unless you flip a latch, which is not
Okay.
super hard to do, but not super easy to do. And it's really it's not wildlife proof. It's wildlife resistant. Like, I mean, if someone really wanted to get in there, they probably could, but it just will keep the garbage inside the cart. So that's an option for them to consider if they want one.
So that's also on your list. I can check yes or no.
That's correct.
They won't.
So are we gonna look down, and you've got a list of the fees that are being charged for each of those. So bottom line is there's no extra fee for a 120 yard waste and a no yard waste cart. So no yard waste. So they get a 120 garbage cart for free, right? Or is
Uh,
there a cost to that?
No, well, your worship, the standard cart package would be a 120 liter garbage cart, 240 liter recycle cart. And the town currently has a charge for the pickup of yard waste, garbage, and recycle. That's built into that fee that you already have. But if you want something different than that, then you have to pay a different fee.
Sure. All right, I think that's that's on there, and it will be on the form that is sent out, and yeah.
Yes, this
Okay.
information will go on the form, but one of the things that we're hoping to find out from council is when do you want to implement them? Like, you can implement them now, like as soon as they roll out the CART program. You could implement some of them now, or you could wait on some of them and implement them when you do your normal fees and charges amendments as part of your normal budget process. That's something that your citizens are used to. They're used to seeing changes at that time of the year. So what this particular slide is showing is the ones in red are ones that you might want to consider implementation as part of your normal budget process. So you don't put those in now. The bottom two, you would. The cart change out. So after everyone had all of their carts and they were using them for, let's say, the month of September and October, and they said, I want a bigger recycle cart. Well, someone's got to go out there and get their old recycle cart and bring in them a new one and go into the computer and change all of the RFID cards tied to that address. There's a $45 fee for that. And then the second thing is if you're going to buy people's carts back, you got to establish a credit fee of $35 in your bylaw. So those two we're suggesting you move forward with. The other ones you could move forward with now, or you could simply wait until you did your normal budget fees and charges budget amendments.
Thank you. Well, I like your thinking on that. To me, those number 6 and 7 are the ones that should be implemented now, and the others could be left. I'm okay with that. What does the rest of council think? Myers, go ahead.
I'm just a little confused. Why wouldn't we just do them now? Why
Do
would-
all of
why
them?
why would we wait? Unless we're gonna make a change somewhere down the road.
So your worship, Councillor Bennett, one of the reasons why we're suggesting a lot of those charges wait until 2026 is something we talked about earlier today, and how much change we've had with quarterly billing. We're gonna have short-term rentals, and so yes, you're correct. And I think this is the first time I've ever said it'd be okay to defer revenues and not take money. But I think we're just concerned with the amount of change our residents have had. And let's just say we do get these carts implemented November, that's our plan. If everything goes good, we'd have to go in and change everybody's quarterly bill for potentially extra carts for that $5 or $10, whatever they're doing. So definitely, I'm usually one for taking the money to pay for the things that we need to pay for, but just for a couple months, it's not going to break us, and I think it would cause us a lot of upset people. So that's the reason why we're saying that one can be hauled off, just more from a user friendly customer perspective. The other two, though, we really should have, and because we are going to incur costs there. If we want to actually put on the surveys that are going to go out at the end of the month, we might potentially buy these carts. We need to have the authorization or no councils, and they give that, it authorizes that. So we need that approval. Otherwise, we're going to change our forms and just say, no, we're not going to take them or that type of thing. So that's why we're putting that one in green. And the other one, the cart change out, as Mr. Mrazek indicated, we've got to do an RFP. We don't have, and we want to know what we need to order. Like, you know, do we need X number of yard waste? Do we need 120 liters? Do we need 240? And so obviously we're gonna buy some extra carts, but not a ton because we've got to store them at the yard. So we really want people to think of what they're going to need. And if there's a charge associated with it, maybe it puts a little bit more emphasis on their decision making. And obviously that $45 isn't making us money. That is just basically to cover our overall costs. And I'm just regurgitating what Mr. Mrazek indicated, but I just wanted to, because I know from administration side, you always hear from me, no, we need to recoup our costs. But in this case, because of what's transpired, we're okay on the budget side doing it this way. So maybe wait till 2026.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The other thing is that we originally, our contract was up in 2026 in June. So that's when we started. So we're moving this a little bit forward so that we can take advantage of getting the carts and doing everything, because the regional district area A around us has to start in July 1st of this year. So it kind of makes sense to do things, and we get the benefit of it a little earlier. So I'm okay with this too. Councillor Poderica and then King.
Thank you, Worship. I guess the one thing, if we're doing this, and I'm not sure, we haven't seen the change out form, is advising that those rates would be effective, let's say, Jan 1, 2026 as part of that quarterly billing, so that someone doesn't opt in, then also comes out, well, you know, I haven't been charged, I haven't been getting charged, and now you're hitting me in January 2026 with this charge. You know, if we need to make some, I don't know if you require any changes prior to that in terms of the bylaw itself for the fees, but I would support that wording be in there, that these rates would come in effect there in the first quarter billing of 2026.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Are these numbers here, the costs, are they in our bylaws already? Mr. Riesling? Are these numbers in our bylaws already, or do they have to be changed as we move forward?
No, they all have to be changed.
So I
And
think we
so-
gotta wait till next, like,
Well-
stall it a bit.
So the two, as Mr. Mrazek has indicated, like the two green ones,
Yeah.
for us to be as clear as possible with our residents, those need to be passed like soon. As long as we know today that council is going to do it, we can get the bylaw in front of you the next council meeting, but we can do all of our material to get ready to be sent out. The other ones, really, those rates are consistent with the RDOS is charging. We could incorporate them in the budget and then indicate that they come effective January 2026. We could do that type of thing. Or we could just indicate to ratepayers that, you know, this is what we're proposing within the overall budget, and that's what we actually have in the material already, that this is gonna cost you an extra $5, but we could wait till the budget time and change the rate structure at that time, but knowing council's gonna do it. Does that help you?
I would wait till budget time personally, but you mentioned the RDOS, these numbers, but they're not the numbers that are in our bylaws? Mr. Riesling? Are these numbers actually in our bylaws? You mentioned the RDS.
Your worship, no, these are required amendments to your solid waste regulation bylaw. But just picking up on what I heard council say, another option that you could consider, if you want to get the fees related to carts in front of your citizens now, because you're sending out mail outs now, so it's sort of all tied up. What you could do is you could have the two in green for implementation immediately. And then you could amend your solid waste regulation bylaw to include the other fees, but you just indicate in the bylaw implementation January 1st, 2026. So then it's all dealt with at the same time, but you're not going to charge them till then. Because they're going to see these fees anyway in the mail out. So that's another option.
That makes sense to me. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I just say we wait till 26.
Yeah, and we will, because they're not being charged till then. So we need to get things set up properly first before we charge them. Okay, so what do you think?
Well,
Correct.
so we are gonna ask for a motion at the end, but and you can still, To make it easy, we're gonna try to do one motion with all the items, but on this item, I don't know if there's clarity amongst council as far as wanting to put them in the bylaw next, in 2 weeks here, and we basically identify it's $5 or $4, but it's gonna not be implemented until 2026. So it's there as a placeholder. Or not include that in the bylaw as a placeholder. Does that make sense? Like it's, so I just want to make sure there's clarity amongst the group.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I guess the one comment here, we'll wait to budget. Well, we're not done budget in December, January, when this is gonna take effect, in theory, right? Like, I mean, well, utility budget, those utilities will be, but do we want to wait that far? I mean, I would think that if we're going down the direction of having that fees conversation now, and these are the fees, and there's, there is cost to us as, to have that larger unit, I would just assume we just get it all taken care of now. Put the wording in there that takes care of, and as soon as we can implement those fees in the budget or in the bylaw, that change should take effect Jan 2026.
Yeah, that's what I thought we were voting on. So put it in the bylaw. It's in there. We know what it's gonna cost, but it's not actually being charged on your bill until January 2026. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah, go ahead.
I know I support that. I guess it would be, would you have time to bring that back in 2 weeks, the updated bylaw?
We're actually going to try to do that.
Mm.
So we'd like to actually have this done before we actually do the educational material, but again, we do have a lot of things on our plate, so if not, it might be a little bit later, but as long as we have I'm really interested to see the vote. I sure hope it's, there's not a change in the direction, because again, we're putting together a lot of material for the public, so we really need to know where council is if we can't get that bylaw. Yep. But
What we need is a vote on whether we would accept, right? It says that the option is that council refer the matter back to staff with direction for further work. So have we got that outlined, what the further work is that we're going to do? We okay with that? Go ahead. Mitch.
Your worship, if I could just summarize, what I'm
Yep.
hearing is, you would like the the solid waste regulation bylaw brought back to council. We're aiming to bring that back on the 22nd, and what you would see is an amendment to bring in the 2 fees in green immediately, and the 5 fees in red would also be implemented in the bylaw, but not for implementation until January 1st.
I think that's what I understand. Everybody's okay with that? All right, all in favor? Did we have a mover and a seconder? Pick 2.
so your worship, I think
Yeah.
there's still some pieces, so we were thinking if going through the additional, for all the questions, I think you still have a couple more questions, right? So you've got a few more questions,
oh,
and so we're thinking of doing a
Pardon
motion
me.
at the
Let-
end.
Let's,
to
absolutely, I'm
make it
sorry.
easier.
Go ahead, please.
We are kind of dealing with them one-on-one, but
Yep.
at the end, we'll do a motion of them all.
Okay. You push your.
Sorry, we're now going to talk about collection. So, yard waste, I wanted to talk about. So right now, Osoyoos is a bit of an anomaly in yard waste collection because they can put out as much stuff as they want whenever they want on a yard waste collection day, which you can't do that in most places. Unfortunately, automated cart collection doesn't lend itself to you doing that, because the whole reason for doing it is so you don't have to get out of the truck anymore. So you just pick the thing up and you go. So it's not efficient to continue to pick up as much stuff as you want to put out all the time, and it will definitely cost you more. I can't tell you how much that is, because the RFP as it was written anticipated automated cart collection for yard waste. It didn't anticipate you're going to have craft bags and containers and bundles anymore. So what we wanted to talk to council about is, what do you want to do? So what's been happening, and it's in place, in some places it's been in place for decades, in some places it's just changing, the regional district is changing this, is with yard waste, you have 2 weeks in the spring and 2 weeks in the fall where you can put out whatever you want. You can put out your cart, you can put out containers, you can put out craft bags, you can put bundles of twigs that are tied together, and it'll just disappear when the garbage truck comes. The rest of the time, all you can put out is your cart of yard waste. If you put a bundle out, it's gonna still be there on the curb when that truck goes by. You could put a craft bag out if you put a tag on it though. So really what you're wanting residents to do is carefully pick the size of the cart you want for your yard waste. And that should accommodate most of the things that you do except for spring cleanup and fall cleanup. Because most of it's just gonna be cutting of your lawn for the rest of the year. And that's all you put out. So that's what's been happening in other places. So the choices that we're putting before council and what we want to get some direction on is how do you want to negotiate your new contract? Do you want to continue to do what you're doing now? That will cost you more. And again, I can't tell you what that is because that will have to be decided at the negotiating table and then brought back. Or do you want to move to, like Penticton's been doing that for at least 10 years now. The regional district is moving to that. Do you want to move to unlimited waste or yard waste collection twice a year for 2 weeks in the spring and the fall? And then basically it's whatever you put out in the cart. Every once in a while, if you have an extra bag or two, you put that out and put a tag bag on it. So, because that makes a difference to how the contract is written before it gets sent to Waste Connections Canada.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I like the idea that your green presentation there, but the people have been putting out 10, 20 bags and they didn't have to put a tag on sticker. So all of a sudden you're going to charge $2 for each sticker. People are going to be pretty upset. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Well, the thing is that if they know that 2 weeks in the spring and 2 weeks in the fall, they can put out unlimited.
Get a sticker for the extra one.
Only, not those 2 weeks in the spring and fall. They don't have to put a sticker
Yeah,
on.
the spring and the fall, the 2 weeks,
Oh.
you put out whatever you want and there's no extra charge for it. But if it's outside of that,
Yeah.
then there is.
Okay. So we okay with that? Go ahead.
Sorry, quick clarification. Your Worship. Sorry, on the 2 weeks, is it 2 week periods? So a 2 week period in the spring, 2 week in the fall, or 1 week in the fall, 1 week in the spring?
2 weeks in the spring and 2 weeks in the fall.
Maybe back to
Eh,
back. So like
yeah,
a
and then-
period.
Every once in a while, like for instance, Penticton, last year they had a big windstorm in the fall. They added an extra one. They just sent a notice out to residents saying, we're adding an extra one and to deal with that. So you always have that ability. And you'll have to talk to the waste collector about it, but you have the ability to do that.
Sorry, as a further clarification from staff, our current yard waste at the landfill does allow for free dumping it up to a certain weight, if I'm correct. Thank you.
So you're quite right. People can, if they have a whole bunch of stuff, load it in a truck and take it out there. And they weigh it, and if it's overweight, then you pay a little bit. That works as well. Okay, next.
So currently you don't have that. You just have, you get recycle every second week and no extra one at Christmas time. The RFP did contemplate having that. Some communities do. Penticton has an extra one, for instance, to get rid of all the stuff at Christmas time. And I swear I didn't pick these colors because I knew I was talking about Christmas. It just came up that way. But we want to find out, do you want that extra pickup or do you just want to keep doing what you're doing?
If other places are doing it, is Oliver doing it? Or is it just Penticton that you know about?
I don't know about Oliver. I know Penticton does, but I don't know about Oliver.
I just thought if it's being done in neighboring communities, it's probably a good idea for us to do it as well. It's not something that I think that I would need, but I think people with big families might. Go ahead.
I don't know, you might know, isn't there a time around Christmas, there's a company in town that you can take your trees to and they shred them? Free?
That's trees, but I think they're
Well, we're
talking about, no, I don't think you're talking about trees here. I thought they were talking about packaging. And
Recycle.
food and recycle. Yeah. So, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you give us an idea of what that extra Christmas cost would be? Would it be to the town or would you
Yes,
be like $3 to every person per year?
uh,
Or what are we talking about here?
about $1.34 per pickup.
So $1.34 a year. That's it.
Yeah, for every, then multiply times the number of residents, you have like 5,000 or something like that on there. So yeah, that's what it would cost you, yeah.
So how do we deal with that cost?
Jim,
Do
would you
we
get upset
add
if
that
you had to
on
pay
right now?
$1.34?
1,000 people.
Well, but how much would you get upset if you had to pay about $34 to have your Christmas included?
One way council might want to look at this is, have you had complaints about people not being able to get rid of their recycle? Like, I don't know your community, so I don't know if you have. If you have been getting complaints, you might want to consider it, but if you haven't been getting any complaints,
Not
might
that
not
I
have
know
to.
of, but we should ask front staff. Would they, do we know whether there've been complaints about that? No, it's not something that, okay. Well, I hate to say, gee, I wish we'd done that. I don't know whether we do it. Yeah. Go ahead. Are you?
Yeah, I did have another thought. I mean,
Yeah.
you could also, like, you can structure the contract to leave these rates in there, but you simply indicate that they are only charged the rates for the items as shown in your waste collection calendar. So if your waste collection calendar doesn't have that, they can't charge you for it. So you can word it that way. So you don't lose the fee. You always have the fee. So if you ever wanted to implement it 3 years down the road, you don't have to negotiate it. It's there, but you only use it when you want it. So that's another option.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question on that. In that extra, is that an additional day within the current week? Or would that be if, because we would go to bi-weekly garbage or regular waste, household waste, weekly recycling, correct? Or is,
No, they would just introduce a second recycling pickup directly after Christmas. So, and then like if it was a normal recycling day, they would pick that up and then the next week there would be another one. You get two back to back. That's what you would do.
So, put it in, but don't necessarily charge for it right now, or have it in there so we can do it. Does that make sense?
So I think what I'm hearing is, council wants to keep this as an option. See what actually happens over the next year or two. So include it in the contract, but reserve the decision to actually put it in our calendar and charge for it down the road. So I think that's what I'm hearing, like keep the option.
I'm okay with that
open.
too. Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay, the last item related to collection I wanted to chat with council about is the mixed food and yard waste. So right now, if you have food waste, that goes in your garbage. That practice will continue under the new collection contract. Once the regional district designs and builds a mixed food waste and yard waste composting facility, then residents would then be able to put their food waste in their yard waste container. That doesn't exist right now. The new collection contract does have a price to pick up the combined or the mixed food waste and yard waste. So that's already there. So whenever you're ready to go, you can do that if that's what you guys choose to do. You'll also have to change though your collection frequency. So right now garbage is picked up every week. Garbage would move to every second week, and yard waste and kitchen waste would move to every week. So you got to swap things around a bit. That's just for council's information, no decisions required, but you might get some questions about what's going on with the mixed food waste and yard waste. So it's being thought about, but it's not ready to go. And that's all I had for you today.
Thank you very much, Mitch. You explained things very well. We appreciate it. I do know that in Oliver, they are doing green waste now, and they've just started this. And I'm assuming that their contract is also with Waste Connections Canada. And do you know, and they have a place at the landfill in Oliver, which is owned by the RDOS, to do that. And I'm wondering, was Area A, Area C, Oliver and Osoyoos considered at one point, and I don't know whether it still is, to use that facility, but it would require a different truck to go there because all of ours would go to our landfill. Am I correct? Do you know?
Your worship, I'm not able to answer questions on where the regional district or other communities are with mixed food and yard waste. I'm sorry.
Not a problem, thank you. I just think we need to keep an eye on that because I'm thinking we'd have to have a special truck that went to the landfill in Oliver versus one that goes to ours, so that could be quite complicated. All right, so where are we at now? Are we agreeing with all of these things? We've got it all listed and we go back and we have a motion. Councillor Poderica, Councillor King, that we go ahead with this, with all of the things that have been discussed that Mrs. Robinson and Ms. Ochasky have got this all laid out. All in favor? Good, thank you very much. That's passed. Thank you very much, Mitch. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So, next we have the off-street public parking regulations amendment bylaw. And who is going to talk about that? Mrs. Robinson. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in front of you today is the off-street public parking. Where's the clicker? Sorry. In front of you is the off-street public parking regulation amendment bylaw 1274. Today, we're going to focus on the boat trailer parking lot. So a little bit of background, the off-street public parking regulation bylaw was adopted in 2010, and it was created to ease the parking burden along like the main streets or in residential areas with boat trailers being parked. Now, the boat trailer parking lot was initially leased property and was only for a select few for like motel and hotel guests staying in town. It's evolved over time and it's now a pay-per-use parking lot with expanded usage for, say, a resident who doesn't have a place to park their boat trailer and they go out salmon fishing. Then in 2023, the town purchased the property, and this now ensures we have long-term parking for boat trailers. Now, the parking lot is used in the summer, and it actually, as the seasons have changed, it's frequently used in the fall now, up until the closure in October. What we're finding is visitors are returning every summer, leaving their boats in the lake and leaving their boat trailers parked in the boat trailer parking lot and paying for that usage. This prevents them from having to take their boat out and go back to their permanent residence wherever they're located. The other thing that bylaw enforcement has observed is that we've had increased compliance for the pay-per-use system since it's been implemented now for a few years, which is, we're happy to see that. So in the off-street public parking regulation bylaw, the CAO is allowed to issue permits for travel trailers or a recreational vehicle, or if we have like Wine Country Racing and they have special cargo trailers. So we've had that in the past. And so the CAO does, staff issue the permit, then the CAO signs off on it, and then the respectful owner of the vehicle has to pick it up. So there are some conditions on that though. If you put your travel trailer in the parking lot, you are not able to occupy it. So this is not a camping spot. You must unhitch it from your vehicle and it stays in there. You must be staying with friends or family or at a local hotel or motel. The towing vehicle must be detached. It cannot stay in the boat trailer parking lot as well. What we've seen is people that are traveling through, this gives them an opportunity to stop in Osoyoos, have a safe place to park their recreational vehicle, and enjoy what Osoyoos has to offer. So we've had a few challenges with issuing permits. So staff are happy to issue the permits, but what we found is that visitors are arriving outside of the town of Oceus operating hours. Visitors may not know the exact date or that they're arriving or that they're leaving. And when visitors arrive outside of our town hours, by law has to go around and either find them at the hotel or motel, or they make arrangements to meet them at the boat trailer parking lot. So it is taking up more time for us. And sometimes we have visitors arriving on the weekend who see the boat trailer parking lot and they go in and park, which is great because they're off the street, but they don't know that they require a parking permit. So administration is recommending an update to the off-street parking regulation bylaw. We want to allow more flexibility for the travelers and visitors coming. We want to take a little bit of the time that they have to come into the office off of staff and that, because we have noticed an increase in people coming in. So what we're proposing is we want to expand the parking access. We want to allow travel trailers or RVs to park in the lot with no permit required. They still have to pay for parking, and their vehicles will still, anything that they tow it with needs to be moved out of the lot, okay? The question you may have is the boat trailer parking lot full? It is full in the summer, but it's never at capacity. We've always had the availability to put a travel trailer in there or a recreational vehicle. If council decides to go in this direction, we are working on clear signage from when you enter on the west side to go in and park on the west side of the parking lot. It will also give us a little more, we're also going to put signs along the fence so that they know that it's more for recreational vehicles and that. Again, this is not for, the parking lot is only open from May to October, and we have always supported the town's businesses that offer storage for your vehicles. So this is not a storage facility. This is if you're coming to town and you're putting your boat in the water, or if you're having a travel trailer coming through town, this is where you're going to park, okay? So again, like I said, bylaw has identified the west side with the availability to expand if necessary. We will set up appropriate signage so that they know that they have to pay and where they can park. And so I'm just looking for council's consideration and any recommendations that they may have.
Thank you, Mrs. Robinson. That was very well explained. Is there a limit on the length of time that somebody can park their motor home in there? In other words, it says on here there's a monthly rate, so they could actually park it there for 4 or 5 months if they chose to? No?
No. So the RVs in that, I'm going to talk about past performance. So past performance, we have had boat trailers parked in there for 2 months because the visitor comes. Most of our recreation vehicles are parked in a storage facility. So if you're coming to town and you're staying for months and you have your recreational vehicle, and we've noticed it there for months, we will try to contact them. I can't see that happening, knock on wood, but you never know. Bylaw is very aware of parking in that, and so you can't put a for sale sign up if you're in the boat trailer parking lot. This is not used for those kind of exposures. This is just to park if you're coming through town or if you're a seasonal resident that needs a place to park. So we've never had that request yet.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Councillor King?
Thanks, Pepper. I just wanted to get clarity. You talked about you don't need a permit, so I could come Friday night and leave Sunday and you wouldn't know I was there? Technically?
Technically, you're right. I would only know that you were there by you paying for parking. Because bylaw does go daily to that boat trailer parking lot, and they have a list that identifies who's paid by their license plate, and then they can identify who has paid and who has not. And if they do not, then we have a process that we follow.
Bylaws works on the weekend?
Bylaw does work on the weekend, yep.
Okay, anything else? Anybody else have any questions on this? Seems like a good idea. Yeah, would somebody like to make a motion that we that we allow
that we
this?
Initiate the off-street parking regulations amendment bylaw number 1270.07.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you very much. And thank you, Mrs. Robinson. I believe that that is the end of our agenda. Thank you. Terminate 1, 2. All in favor. Thank you very much, everybody.